Welcome to We in Lewes, a podcast dedicated to celebrating the remarkable, creative, and energetic people who live in Lewes and are helping our community forge a collective soul as appealing as it is unique. These are their stories in their words. They are the we in Lewes. I'm Kevin McGinnis. Our guest today is Russ Palmer, the chairman of the amazing July 4th Firework Extravaganza known as Go Fourth Lewes, founder of Russ Palmer Builders, and a Lewes native. Russ is heavily involved in Lewes as a businessman, an active member of the community, and is considered by many to be one of the nicest people you'll ever have the good fortune to meet. Today's episode is brought to you by the sister restaurants of Kindle and Half Full. Located in downtown Lewes, Kindle offers seasonal American fare with a bit of a French influence, as well as an amazing selections of wines by the glass. It's also known for its weekly specials. My wife is a fan of Tuesday Moule Frite Night, and Steve, as a proud meatitarian, I'm guessing you're partial to the Thursday Filet Night.
Yeah, man.
Half Full focuses on... Right next door, Half Full focuses on gourmet pizza and wine. For the 2% of America not interested in those important food groups, it also has delicious soups, salads, and an amazing array of desserts. And of course, we're thrilled today to be recording at the bar at Kindle. Russ, welcome to the podcast.
Thank you.
Tell us about the origins of Go Fourth Lewes.
Go Fourth started in 2017 when the Fire Marshal of Delaware decided to discontinue rogue fireworks in the state of Delaware, which also included for all of us here in Lewes, Lewes Fireworks on the beach. So we missed fireworks in 2017. During that period, I went to the mayor at the time and said, what can I do to get fireworks back in Lewes next year? By October, they had a council meeting in the city of Lewes. They agreed to have fireworks the next year if I agreed to chair the committee. In the meantime, I had gone to different business people in the city of Lewes, friends of mine, and I had 38 businesses signed up to volunteer their time and finances to help fund the fireworks. So in 2018, we had our first firework event, which went off very well, just raised enough money for them, and ever since then it has just taken off on its own.
Now, you mentioned rogue fireworks. I believe, didn't there used to be two families who on their own sort of had these competing fireworks displays? It was absolutely incredible and went on for a very long time.
Yeah, the Knapp family was one of them. Their youngest daughter, Gay Knapp, and I grew up together since kindergarten. And then my neighbor across the street, Andy and Nancy Diffley, were another one of the families on Lewes Beach. And it was fun. It was competitive, and people came from all over just to watch them. It's a shame that wasn't allowed anymore. But again, now we just have it in a whole different level.
Now, this event is not underwritten by the city, is that right?
It is absolutely not. It is strictly fundraising by businesses and individuals within the city of Lewes, people that come here, people that rent here, or people that own or seasonally come. They plan their vacations around the fireworks now. So the city does help us with the police department, the maintenance department. They're awesome. But no, it is strictly funded by individuals and businesses.
It's a remarkable show. And it sometimes now runs over a half an hour, I believe. Is that right?
It does. I think the first year we were supposed to have 25 minutes. We got 35. And ever since then, he's committed to at least 35 minutes plus.
What is the best place to watch the fireworks?
It depends on who you are. We learned that the first year that we had such a massive crowd going to Lewes Beach that we needed to put out there that you don't have to be on Lewes Beach to watch the fireworks. So quite honestly, you can see them equally as well all along Politown Road, whether you're at the Canal Front Park, the Little League Field, all the way down to the inlet on Lewes Beach, or at University of Delaware, which gets a lot of people from eliminating going to the beach. So we even tell people to go to the Lewes Library and they can see them from there.
A lot of people take their boat and go out and watch from the water. Is that right? Because that number seems to be growing every year.
They definitely are. I have videos that friends of mine have been out there videoing them and sending them back to me. I think last year they reported they had over 300 boats of whatever size out in the bay, and then you also can watch them from the ferry as well.
This is a professional operation. They bring in a barge.
Yes, Schaefer Fireworks is the one who we've hired since day one. They've done an incredible job for us. And then we have to hire a barge separately from that to barge the fireworks to the bay site.
So in addition to organizing the actual fireworks, you also have to address an array of logistical challenges normally associated with a sporting event. Is that right?
We do. There's a lot of behind-the-scenes people that people don't think about, whether it's the paramedics, Lewes Fire Department, the Coast Guard, again, the City of Lewes with their maintenance department. So, yeah, there's a lot going on. Right down to, believe it or not, porta potties. We have to provide porta potties all over town to handle the crowd.
The traffic gets a little out of hand. And so you actually don't allow people to use certain parts of the streets here to allow people to get off the beach. Is that right?
Yes. We learned the first year, because we didn't know what to expect, that it was a mass exodus. I think we heard the police officers that were on top of the bridge turned around and watched like 15,000 people walking up Savannah Road to get across the bridge. And if they were on the left side, they wanted to get to the right side and vice versa. So now we have a half an hour delay that pedestrians get off the beach first, and then cars and bicycles are after that. But we try to force them to go up Freeman Highway while the pedestrians are going over the drawbridge. And then you can only go down New Road or Gills Neck Road or straight out. You can't go down Kings Highway anymore. And again, that's like within the first hour.
It's over 15,000 people attending?
That would be the first year, so that would be minimal. But then I guess it's also based on whether it's during the middle of the week or whether it's, you're going to have more people on the weekend.
How big is the team that you've organized to handle the event?
There's about 5 people that are actually chair the event, and there's probably another 15 behind the scenes that come to the meetings for what they're responsible to take care of.
And you also utilize certain city services, as you mentioned.
Like the police department, the maintenance department are the two big organizations within the City of Lewes.
How can someone who's interested support Go Fourth Lewes?
Money. It doesn't matter whether it's $5 or it's $100. We gladly accept your money. It takes a lot of money, and every year it costs that much more.
You can go on your website. You have a website dedicated.
We have a website dedicated. You can go to Greater Lewes Foundation and scroll down, hit the blog for Go Fourth Fireworks.
Russ, I believe your family originally came to Lewes after the war. And that would be the Revolutionary War. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah. Yes, we have ties back to the late 1700s in Lewes. My 4 times back great-grandfather, John Wesley, lived here. And since then, my grandchildren are 9th generation to Lewes.
Ninth?
My grandfather's house at 580, my great-grandfather's house, John Rhodes, is at 582 Palatine Road, is still standing right now. He built that and had a farm on that property. The only reason I know a lot of this is 3 years ago for Christmas, my son gave me a genealogy. He actually spent time and had it bound and everything. And names that kept coming up were Lingos, Hopkins, Birdingham. And you could start seeing they were trading names off, like one son got one name and one got the other. So I have reread that to know about my family's history, and walked Bethel Cemetery because their tombstones are in Bethel Cemetery. Some of them gravitated to the Indian River 100 down in the Dagsboro area and started their farming life down there. But literally, to my oldest son, Zach, gave it to me. It set me off on knowing about my family, but I'm a big history buff anyway, and I think that's why he gave it to me.
When did you realize you wanted to be a builder?
Probably back in my early 20s. Lewes was a small town back then. I was always interested in architectural drafting, and it just, I don't want to say it fell in my lap, but it was just kind of the direction I headed in.
But this wasn't a family business.
No, absolutely not. My father delivered mail for the City of Lewes for 20 years. He was stationed right here behind us at the post office on Front Street.
At that time, could he do by himself most of Lewes?
My dad, at the time, had to buy his own automobile to deliver mail because they didn't offer a mail truck. And my dad had the only mail route between Lewes and Route 24, which is now like 17 routes.
I believe you were initially hoping to become an architect.
I was.
And how did that lead to becoming a builder?
I've always been interested in math. I can see things flat, which is definitely a blueprint. And for some reason, I just have this creative mind and desire within me. And that was the direction I went in versus putting the time in to go to college to be an architect.
Now, you're known and respected for building high-quality individual custom homes. Tell us the process you utilize when approached by a client.
First of all, I have to know if they own property, and if they do, where it is, which then determines, how big of a house we can get on that lot. And then I ask them an array of questions on whether, they want a ranch-style home, a two-story home, how many bedrooms, bathrooms, and then I start trying to lay it out myself for them, doing a lot of sketch work. Then we get to the yes, no's, or maybes, and it starts driving on its own at that point.
So the number of bedrooms, or the number of baths, or the kitchen, or what's going to be on the top floor, or all those are the sort of things that then determine, then you can fit that into a certain style.
Absolutely. Somebody could walk in my office and have a lot in Lewes that's 50 by 100, and someone could walk in my office that owns an acre of property. So you're either restricted to square footage and setbacks in the city of Lewes, which you are in the county also, but obviously you have a bigger plot that you can work with.
As you can see from your website, you have built almost every type of home one can find in this area, from Victorian to a Cape, a Craftsman, to a traditional East Coast beach house. How do you get comfortable with such a variety?
It just comes naturally. When someone tells me they want a Craftsman home, I can just start. I'm talking to them at my desk in my office, and my designs already running through my head before they even left my office.
So then you will, as a draftsman, you will design the house.
Right.
But then do you have to render it into architectural?
Yes, I've for the last 15 years we've handed it over to a CAD drawer, where prior to that I could do all the drawings myself, but then all the municipalities requested it be on PDF or CAD form.
What does that mean?
It's on the computer. It's computer generated. Or I would freehand everything at a drafting table. I would finish a blueprint and then hand it over to a person to put it on a computer.
Is that when you sort of determine how many 2x4s you need, how many, all of the questions that go into the nuts and bolts of building plans?
I do all that myself. I do all my own takeoffs. I've done it for years. So I just have a formula that I use for what I should send out there. And if you're short, you send another load out. If you've overdone it, they come pick it up and take it back.
Now, one of the challenges many people who build a new custom home is that at times, architectural plans don't always perfectly translate from paper to reality. Does your approach help minimize these challenges?
Absolutely. I mean, I've done this long enough, and I've worked with myself drawing and the CAD person that they're completely tweaked before we even start. If I know it's not going to work, it's not a finished blueprint yet.
Obviously, part of building is going to be getting the permits and the fees associated with that. You've been doing this 40 years now?
Yes.
Has that process gotten more expensive and a lot more complicated?
There's a lot more going on in whether it's a municipality or Sussex County. When I first started out, you didn't have to take your plans to get approved within Sussex County. You've always had to have them get approved in Lewes. But there's a lot more hoops to jump through. It takes a longer time to get them done because there's so many people moving here, so many houses getting built that where it used to take a week or two for approvals, now you could be waiting 30 days or more. Costs incurred or have gone up exponentially over the years, because if you build within the first year of your house within the county, you owe money to the county and the state as much as 3.5%. If you build within the city of Lewes, you owe that 3.5% to the city of Lewes and the state of Delaware, as well as a tax imposed for building within the first year. They found out that they were taxing people for buying and selling houses, but they needed new revenue, so they implemented this tax minimally 10 or 15 years ago.
I noticed in some architects or some builders sort of reserve in the budget $10,000 to $12,000 just for fees associated with the construction. Is that normal?
If you build, for an example, within the city of Lewes, you could probably add anywhere between $30,000 and $40,000 for their fees between permits, the tax I just talked about, and you have surveys. It's a laundry list of fees not that you don't have them in the county, they're just much higher in the city of Lewes.
Can you go around town now and you see built that, built that, built that?
Absolutely. When my parents' friends would come for the weekend, that was a big deal. They'd get in the car and drive them around Lewes and say, Russ built that, or Russ lived there and Russ lived there. Yeah, absolutely. I'm coming up on 1,000 projects, whether it be single-family homes, decks, renovations, or additions that I've done in the last 40 years. And I've done it running the company by myself. I feel that is quite an accomplishment.
It is. That is tremendous.
And the last couple of years, I've tried to limit to like 8. I mean, after 40 years, it's, it wears on you. And there was one time in the late 90s, I think we had done 32 houses in like 3 or 4 years in a row. And it's a lot going on. But at that time, you couldn't turn the faucet off. You could raise your prices up and they would just come in that much faster. Yeah. COVID was just crushed. I had so many people come in to build houses, which we built, and then the cost of everything was going through the roof. We were signing contracts for X amount of dollars, and they were paying another $100,000 during the course of construction because the numbers were going through the roof. So I was getting my money back just to break even and not losing the money because it was going up and it was taking another 3 months to get the products to your front door to even build it. So that 2.5 years was really, really hard.
But you were busy.
I was busier than I had been the 3 years before COVID. I mean, COVID did the exact opposite of what I thought it was going to do. I thought it was going to stagnate the market. I thought people were going to start losing money. I sold a couple pieces of property, which now if I kept, I would have doubled my money on. I honestly thought it was going to go in the opposite direction.
You had already started your business when you met your wife, Nicole. Is that right?
Oh, yeah. I had started it probably 15 years before then. Yes.
And she was working at one of the banks you were working with. Is that right?
She was working as a head teller at Mellon Bank in Lewes. I, at the time, was also working with Mellon Bank in Georgetown for construction financing, and they referred me to Lewes, stopped me from driving to Georgetown. I walked in the door one day, and there she was. And that's all it took.
Did you know at that moment?
I did.
Did she?
I don't think so. I think that after I kept running through the drive-by, changing in $20 bills, she got it.
And I believe you have 2 children together. Is that right?
I do, Allison and Dane, yes. But we have 2 other older children, Zach and Lauren, as well.
Now, did they get into the business?
Not at all. I wish one of the 4 of them would, but they are not interested in it. They have their own desires.
Are they spread out now, or are you lucky enough to have them close by?
Lauren and Allison and Dane are here, and Zach is in Arlington, Virginia.
And they're not doing construction or anything like
that?
Not
at
all.
I take it. Nope.
But you have a tradition in your family of building your own stuff. Is that right? I believe your dad started that.
Yeah, my dad, again, grew up here in Lewes, and 5 or 6 of his best friends that all grew up in Lewes, they actually all helped build each other's houses. Whether it be it was a mason, electrician, a plumber, they were all contractors, and that's what they did. And then when I went to build my first house, and for my friends, we all did the exact same thing.
And did you work with your dad?
Yeah, I did. My dad built a modest house when we first moved here, or moved back here, I guess I should say. And then over time, he, added a family room on our garage or screen porch, and I was kind of his laborer. So I was in the thick of it.
But you liked it, obviously.
I did. Yeah.
It is always the joy of working hard on something and actually seeing a result.
Yeah. And when I started my company, my dad actually became my laborer. He had been retired for a couple of years, and he had needed something to do. So he would come up on my job sites and clean them up and take lumber to the transfer stations and guide me in different directions. But yeah, so it was a flip-flop, but it worked well.
And what led you to going from, I think I want to be a builder, and not take the architectural route, which you were starting at Delaware? What led you to the transition to actually believing you could do it?
I wanted to build my own house, just like my dad did. So I did that at 23 years old. I literally physically dug the footers, did the framing, hung the drywall, put the shingles on, And it took me a while to do it, but I did complete it. And then while I was doing that, the development I lived in at the time, or was building in at the time, I had people that owned property that said, hey, can you do this for me too? And then it kind of took off after that. I was working a full-time job and building my house as well.
What were you doing?
I was selling trusses and engineering trusses for Sam Yoder and Son in Greenwood, Delaware.
Did you realize that, oh my God, I actually could make a living doing this?
I did, only when I realized that my part-time job as building houses was overriding my full-time job.
Was that a time function or a financial function? In terms, in other words, could you make more money building houses than selling the trusses?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely, yeah. And I was in charge of what I was doing, not working for somebody else. You're still working for a homeowner, but I wasn't being asked to report at 6 a.m. and leaving at 6 p.m. every day.
Did you have your own crew at one point?
I did early on, and then tax structures changed, and it made more sense to be considered subcontractors. Even though they worked for me every day, I couldn't technically call them my own. They work for themselves through me.
When you use subcontractors as part of the business now, sort of quality control, I mean, you have to double check the work.
I'm the only person on my payroll, so I'm on a job site every day. If I'm not in a job site, I'm in my office doing financing, meeting new clients, meeting old clients, meeting sales reps. So yeah, I'm on the job site multiple times all day long. I'm my own form of quality control.
In addition to fireworks, you've been heavily involved in local community programs, including Autism Delaware. What led to your involvement?
Nicole and I had attended a dance for Lower Delaware Autism probably 15 years ago, and it was in high regard that you even got an invitation or could actually get there. It was always sold out early. And I went to one and felt a calling for it, became a heavy volunteer for it. Within 6 months or so, I was asked to be a part of the organization. You don't know enough about it till you're in the trenches with them. I spent a week over at the Lewes Children's Beach House from 8 a.m. until 4 p.m, one-on-one with the child. The following summer, I helped teach kids how to ride bicycles at Mariner Middle School. I was fortunate enough to be the only one that got their child up on a bike and permanently could ride. It was a great workout running around the parking lot for a week, but I think it was just a calling. I've always been a person who loves children and is actively involved in children.
You're no longer running around parking lots.
I am not running now. I can't win for that anymore, or have no win for that.
And I believe that Autism Delaware has a ball that I think most men would love to attend, because you don't have to wear a tux, even though they use the word ball, but blue jeans is acceptable.
Right. When I first got involved with it, it was a formal event, and it would cost you as a couple a small fortune just to go, because you're renting tuxes. The women were buying dresses. It was the nines. And within a year or so, I said, you've got to draw more people that want to help sponsor or give money or acknowledge this. And we came up with the idea of having a blue jean ball. So the women and the men could wear jeans, and they got a little dressy up top. And we doubled our numbers within the first year. And we doubled our numbers. We doubled our people that wanted to get there as well. Yeah. So it was a great new concept, and it went over very well.
I think there are a lot of events I've had to attend over my life where I wish had adopted the blue jean concept.
Exactly.
That would have been great. I know family has always played a large role in your life. And having a family has been a priority that you've worked hard not only to incorporate into your own life, but to pass along to your children. How did you go about setting that up?
I think it just came instinctively. I think you learn from example what to do or what not to do. Staying actively involved in your parents' life as well as your kids' life. Your parents see how you're raising your kids see how you're still taking care of your mother at 95 years old. And you would hope that your kids take care of you when you get somewhere near that age as well. My kids and my wife mean everything to me, and that's the most important thing. My business came behind that, but my business allowed me to take care of my kids, send them all to college, help them out through the years.
Reputation has it that you're a tremendous cook. And do you do the cooking at the house?
I do most of it. When I don't feel like it, we go to Kindle.
I do find that feeling tends to increase as one gets older.
Yeah, no, that's true. My wife doesn't mind cooking. She doesn't relish the idea of it. She'll do all the grocery shopping for me, but I enjoy doing it.
Is there a certain type of a style that the kids liked or that you liked that you sort of emphasize, or are there certain meals that you...
No, I say who wants what tonight and I make it happen.
Really?
Yeah. We joke that there's only one dish that I really make that it's chicken casserole with rice and mushrooms and broccoli that everybody loves. Other than that, my wife loves pasta. I like seafood. My son likes steak. My daughter likes steak. So it's kind of like, probably like everybody else's house. Everybody has different likes, and what are you going to get? It's in front of you. You better eat it or you're on your own.
Now, your mom is still with us. Is that correct?
She is, yep.
And she lives here in Lewes?
Yep, she lives in Holland Acres, the same house my dad and she built in 1963.
And is that one story or two stories?
It's a two-story. It's a two-story house. She still sleeps on the second floor. The main bathroom's on the second floor, so she's allowed downstairs in the morning and she's allowed back upstairs in the evening.
And you provide food for her, is that right?
I usually make food for her the first of the month, and I prep it for her and put it in containers and take it over to her house so she's got something to eat. My brother sends her up food with the Swan's truck, and I'd rather do that than have her eating scrambled eggs and toast every night. So I know she's eating something good.
I think that's fantastic, because often the image goes the other way with your mom bringing you something in a Tupperware.
Yeah, no.
Did you make sure when the kids were at the house that you made sure that they would have events where the family got together with your mother or with whoever the relatives that were around to make sure that was sort of a staple part of the week?
My wife is a huge birthday person. Her parents made a big deal of her birthday every year, as they should have. So we carried that tradition on with our kids. At Christmas time, my kids all come back home to have Christmas with my mother, because that's the only day that she has it with us. So no matter where they are, we make sure that the Saturday before Christmas, we're all together and spend the day with her and have Christmas with her at her house.
So that's sort of her Christmas.
It is, and we've done that. It used to be at my house, and I relinquished to her about 20 years ago so that it could be at her house.
Is one of the things that you've done that allows the emphasis of family to work and you're able to pass it on to your kids is the fact that you and Nicole have made it a priority?
Absolutely. My wife is a very nurturing person by nature, and we have nothing but positive things to say to all 4 of our children and 5 grandchildren.
Do the grandkids like Lewes Beach?
Absolutely. My son, who lives in Arlington, they come over for 2 or 3 weeks every summer and spend at least a week with us randomly through the summer. So, yeah, they can't wait to get to G-Mom and G-Pop's house.
Do you spoil them?
No.
Really?
No.
I thought that was our role as a grandparent.
I don't know if I say we spoil them. We smother them in a lot of love.
Not everyone who grows up in Lewes stays for a lifetime. And Lewes today is not the Lewes of your childhood. Because you grew up here, is that right?
Yes.
And you went to school here?
Kindergarten to senior, yep.
And I think your first kindergarten, there was
not a public kindergarten when I went to school here. You had to pay for it. It was a private kindergarten that was over at the Children's Beach House.
So you started at the Children's Beach House for school?
I did, yep, for kindergarten, and then came to first grade at the original elementary school that has now been remodeled.
And did you go up through the system? Did you go to Cape?
Absolutely, yep.
Lewes in those days was smaller, I take it.
I think our population, I grew up here, might have been 3,000 or under as a year-round population.
A year-round population.
Right.
Because I think technically it's almost 4,000 now, although that seems a little low.
Yeah, I would think it's a little low, but there wasn't a lot of people here.
And you've mentioned this, as have others who lived here. Lewes didn't look like it does today, and in fact, it was sort of notable for us. It was a bit odoriferous.
It was a lot different than it is now. I think being a child, though, maybe I didn't pay attention to that at the time. There was an MP here, which is where the Lewes Oyster House is now. My grandfather ran that. And there was an Acme on Lewes Beach, and that was about the only place you could actually buy groceries. There was a gas station on each corner downtown Lewes, and that was about all there was for that as well. My great uncle, Pop Jefferson, ran the what was the hardware store? Franklin Hardware. Owned and ran Franklin Hardware on Lewes on 2nd Street for many years, but there was not a lot here. Little tiny shops.
So it was a gas station, a grocery store, a hardware store, sort of a traditional small town.
Yes. Yeah.
There weren't lots of restaurants.
No, not at all.
Clothing stores.
Yeah, no.
Real estate companies.
I think there were 2 drugstores on each end of 2nd Street, and a barbershop because my uncle owned the barbershop.
Was that where the barbershop used to be? Sort of on 3rd Street?
Right next to where Sussex Trust is, which is PNC now.
And what did Lewes Beach, that community, look like?
It was a bunch of nice cottages, unlike what it is now. It's still nice, but it was very quiet. You could go over to Lewes Beach anytime in the summertime, and it was not crowded at all.
And did the housing go all the way down to Roosevelt Inlet? Because for a while it stopped around Oregon.
Yes, it did. I think the Mason's house was down there when I was a kid.
And everyone knew everyone, is that right?
Yes, everyone knew everyone. As long as you came home when the streetlights came on, you were okay.
That was the rule?
Yes, when the streetlights came on, you all better get home.
What led you to staying here your whole life?
I think I'm just a small town guy. I think my brothers and sisters left, and I ventured out a couple times and found myself right back here. The beach called me.
Did you like the small town component?
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, I like that everybody knows everybody, not that much anymore. But I like the fact that you can walk into a grocery store or a restaurant, people acknowledge who you are. You can walk down the street and say hi, and hopefully everybody will say hi back to you, and eventually you'll get to know them. I like the small town feel.
You have a beach house on Lewes.
Yes.
And what I've been so amazed about, I remember the house that was there before you bought it. If you saw that house and you saw what is there today, you would never have been able to imagine that land could have something as beautiful as your house is.
Right.
Given what was there in the beginning. I mean, it was a room and a half.
It was a room and a half with a garage and a toilet sitting in the middle of the sink. Yeah. Right. It was on the market for over a year, and I kept riding by. And I finally took Nicole to it, and I said, I'm going to buy this. And she said, really? And I said, yeah. And she said, well, if anybody has a vision for it, you do. And we went and bought it and had it torn down in a day or two and went from there.
So what advice would you give to someone who is looking to build in this area or renovate in this area? Other than give you a call.
Enjoy the process. If you're not ready to enjoy the process because your personality will not let it be, then just buy a house and don't do any renovations at all. Don't build a house, just buy one.
When you relax, where do you like to go?
You will find me on Lewes Beach with a book in my hand.
Really?
Absolutely. Lisa Ezekiel has a picture of me from 2 blocks away, sitting on Lewes Beach all by myself in a bathing suit. She was down on Massachusetts or something or other, and she shows me a picture one night. I said, "Who is that?" She said, "It's you." I don't care who's on the beach. If it's warm, I'll go down to the beach by myself and just take a book, and I'm like in solace. I'm like, I'm good.
Russ, I know you don't seek out attention. You don't look for a camera to step in front of. You like being in the background, it seems. And yet you also have one of the best reputations of anyone in town. Do you think that's all related?
Yes. I think with my humble backgrounds in Lewes, that's just been instilled in me that I don't have to be the showy guy. I don't have to drive the flashiest car. I just have to work on positive relationships with my family and my friends.
For those of us who didn't grow up here, or for those of us who grew up in one state and moved to another to work and maybe moved here, what is it like to live as an adult where you grow up?
Well, I've grown up too, so you have to make way for change, accept it, whether it's positive or negative. And we have met many wonderful people moving here. My business has let me to make new relationships in Lewes, Rehoboth, Sussex County, however, whatever you want to look at it. And my clients have been a joy to work with. You have to accept growth. If not, I wouldn't have a business. I wouldn't have the situation I'm in Lewes right now. So you have to keep an open mind. I hope that when people move to Lewes, they have a tendency to leave that city vibe alone and start their new life in a wonderful place and have a positive attitude.
What advice would you give folks who are looking at Lewes and they move here because they want to keep it exactly what it is the day they buy? You've seen a lot of change in your time here in Lewes. What advice do you have them for sort of accepting or appreciating the fact that it will not stay stagnant? The city will change.
Well, I don't think it will stay stagnant. I don't think it should, but I also think the mentality that I'm here now, close the door so nobody else comes in, that's not fair or right. I think the positive group of people that are living in Lewes that want to see positive growth is the direction that we should all be going in. Lewes should not be stagnant, but we also want the downtown quarter to remain the same.
Russ, I can't tell you how much we appreciate your joining us today, your willingness to do it. Because again, I know that being on a podcast was not high on your list of life priorities.
It's all good.
And especially since we know it's over, right?
Yeah, thank you for having me.
You've helped build, literally and figuratively, the town so many of us have come to love. And remember, if you'd like, please go visit gofourthlewes.org to make a donation. Fourth is spelled like the number, not the adverb. And thanks to today's sponsor, the sister restaurants Kindle and Half Full. There's no better accolade that no matter what else is going on around you, coming here, they always make you feel welcome. Oh, and the food's good. And most importantly, thank you for listening and for your encouragement and support. Please follow us on Instagram or Facebook at We in Lewes, the podcast. Have a wonderful day, and when you can, take a moment to stop and enjoy the wonderful hamlet called Lewes, which some of us are lucky enough to call home. Until next time, this has been We in Lewes, the podcast.